Hey guys, how's it going? My name's Bryn Evans, and this is Listening to Teacher Evans Nativo, the channel where I speak and you practice your English listening. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about my experience as an English teacher, where it all started, why I decided to give lessons, and why I continue to do so. In the last episode, I mentioned how giving lessons really helped get me out of a bad situation. Not only financially, but mentally as well. Giving lessons was never something that I had wanted to do, nor did I think I would ever do so. Even after moving here to Brazil, having it all make sense, being native, needing a job, finding a new career, but even then, I still put it off for a number of months. When I first arrived here, I thought I'd be able to walk into a decent job that was actually assured to me. But when I realized that wasn't the case, I just did the first thing that came up. I needed a wage. I needed some money coming in. I found something with the husband of a friend of my wife's, installing shop signs. It was his own business. He would design the signs, we would make them, I would sand the materials and do easy basic jobs that absolutely anybody else could have done. And then when it was all ready to go, we would go to the location and install them. It was far from anything that I had ever done before, and again, far from anything that I would ever have imagined that I would do, because it felt like I had started all over again. I jumped back to when I was 15 working as a labourer. Just up to a couple of months prior, I was a manager of a busy restaurant, and now I was there in Brazil on top of some scaffolding that swayed in the wind, holding a heavy sign 3 stories up. All for just 50 reais a day for 11 hours work. At the time, a couple of years ago now, it worked out to be just 60 pence an hour, or maybe that would be 80 or 90 cents in the US dollar. I'd come home battered and bruised, tired and sunburnt. So trust me, when they say that speaking English makes you a step ahead, they see it as a privilege, they're wrong. It's not that simple. You need to be somewhere that requires you to speak English. Otherwise, you're just somebody that people look at in pity because you talk funny. It came to a time when I said that I wouldn't risk myself anymore, and I stopped going on jobs. But now what? What was I going to do? I needed money. I was studying administration at the time. But even though the school made bold claims of my potential, which, of course, I later over-fulfilled, they never found anywhere willing to take on the gringo. Then one day, a friend of the family was traveling abroad with work, and he needed to learn the basics of English before his trip. We ended up having a month or so of lessons. He didn't really take much on board. What can you expect, starting from zero and only willing to study 2 hours a week on a tight time frame? But at least it gave me a look into what teaching was like. It gave me some experience and insight. It taught me that I hated it. I hated being a teacher. I hated giving lessons. I hated the prep work that was needed. That for a 1-2 hour lesson, I had to spend 3-4 hours on the laptop on Word creating material. Maybe it was me. I just wasn't prepared enough to be a teacher. Obviously, it was something that I'd never done before, so everything was new. But I'm not joking when I said I hated it. It was terrible. I didn't like a single second of the experience. I was even relieved when it was over and I could go back to job hunting, looking for something looking for a job for myself, something permanent, somewhere I could grow within a team and the company. But months went by, once again, still nothing. Actually, I was offered a job in a hotel as a nighttime dishwasher, 8 p.m. till 6 a.m. for barely minimum wage. The job offer was more dismotivating and disheartening than it was positive, even if I needed the money. Because imagine, I'm bilingual, I'm a native English speaker with 10 years experience in the restaurant business, and they wanted me to wash dishes on the graveyard shift. It was something that pretty much summed up my story in the town where I live, as I've never really been valued by anyone here, not even by the English schools in the area, native or not. Which is why when I was offered the opportunity to start giving lessons online to people that were already living abroad in America, Britain, Ireland, Portugal, etc., I had no choice. The money was okay, and it was far better than anything that I thought I could get locally. My first trial class went well, I closed the deal, and we started the lessons the following week. But then it seemed like I was only ever going to have that one student. Trial class after trial class, and no new students. Just wasting my time. Although it turned out that I needed to learn how to sell myself more than I needed to know how to sell the below average textbooks and material I had at my disposal. As essentially, they're going to learn English because of me and not some textbook. It was difficult to speak with confidence when I didn't have any at the time. I found myself in a situation that it was next to impossible to wake up and have that swagger that a salesman needed. Or not even a salesman, just somebody that had to convince somebody of their own ability when I believed that I wasn't able of anything. Given lessons specifically, I didn't know what I was doing, as the guy that had offered me the opportunity never really showed me how to conduct the lesson. I just had to learn. I just had to pick new strategies and tactics and techniques up as I went. Plus, I had to learn grammar and different tenses in English. It may sound strange, but it's true. I didn't have a clue what a noun was, and I could never have told you when to use the present perfect. I didn't even know that it was a thing, even though I had been using it every day for most of my life. As just because you speak a language, it doesn't mean that you know how to teach someone it. Which is interesting, as I saw a post on Instagram of some Brazilian English teachers bad-mouthing native teachers. Most of their opinions and their point of view I strongly disagreed with, and in somewhat felt personally attacked by most of which of what she was saying in her forced American accent. As she made it out to be impossible for native teachers to have the ability to teach someone English, down to their general lack of knowledge of certain tenses and grammar. But whoever may be listening to this right now, I challenge you to explain to me in detail all of the tenses in every language that you may speak. Be honest. You can speak a language to a high level without even ever studying with a teacher. Never mind knowing advanced grammar and when to use it and certain rules that you need to live by in order to be understood. That's nonsense. It just depends on the way you learn and to the standards and with the people that you need to communicate with. You can speak perfect English without speaking English perfectly. I think there's a big difference between the two, and is very commonly misunderstood. So it's safe to say that the post had irritated me a lot. Because without these native teachers like myself, people that can't afford to or haven't had the privilege of traveling abroad to an English-speaking country, they'd never be able to practice their English with someone that truly knows the ins and outs of everyday English like myself and all the other native teachers. Trust me, if you speak English well enough, you don't need to worry about which tense you are speaking in. It just comes naturally. And if you make a mistake, us natives, we really don't care. We know that it's difficult speaking in a second language. No one is perfect. Especially the foreign teachers that will waste your money on practicing your American accent just for you to move to Ireland a year later. And with the Irish accent, we're all in the same boat. If you're native or foreign, it's difficult. Even myself, a native speaker, I struggle with the Irish accent, or at least certain Irish accents from certain regions. Anyways, once I had learned how to give people the confidence in me that I could actually teach them something, things started to look better. It took me a while to actually stop hating the job and start looking at it as a way for me to take the next step, to forget what people around me were saying and truly focus on what I believed that I could achieve. It wasn't until my number of students started growing and I started to see the diversity of people that I was talking with each and every day. I saw that everyone had their problems, and at the same time, they also had their dreams, wherever they were in the world. This forced me to grow as a teacher and to improve my strategies. I couldn't just have one plan that worked for everyone, as every case was different. Every lesson, each and every student and person, they looked at me for help. And the best part about it, I could help them. For the first time since arriving, I felt valued. Within this time of being a teacher, I think I've evolved a lot. Obviously, it hasn't all been positive, as I've encountered situations that I believe everyone who has previously been self-employed have gone through. Things like not having a guaranteed salary, nor a manager, nor brand to hide behind when things don't quite go to plan. But I think I have learned so much more from my students than I could ever teach them in English, as they taught me more about life and how I can live it. And in doing so, I'm starting to understand a little bit more about myself and my true potential. Not just what I hear from people, from the teachers, from the course, from my wife, from my family. I'm starting to believe it. Things that they unfortunately don't sell online courses for. I arrived here thinking that I knew absolutely everything, when in fact I knew nothing. And I still don't, but I'm starting to have more of an idea. Sometimes you discover so much in places you never thought you'd ever search. I think that's a good way to sum up my experience as an English teacher, or at least up until now. And to be honest, I really can't wait for life's next lesson. So guys, that's all for today's episode. Hopefully it helps you get one step closer to improving your English. Remember, little by little, you will get there. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and follow my socials, which are linked in the descriptions, for English tips. Have an amazing day, and until next time, ciao ciao.